Thank you very much. Mathanga Africa Perspective now goes to the topic of the day. Tomorrow, Zimbabwe will celebrate 45 years of independence. What lessons does Africa learn from this independence of Zimbabwe? From 1980, the year of hope and the liberation, to 2025, the year of sanctions, and a further hope that one day this nation, Zimbabwe, will rise and shine, and it is rising to shine. Ladies and gentlemen, for many of you who were not there when Zimbabwe got independence, some of us were there. Some of us were already working in the government. So we had a chance to be flown into Harare to witness Ian Smith handing over power to Robert Mugabe. We are privileged, therefore, to tell the story of this great nation. We are privileged also to follow up, to stand, to tell you that the entire Africa stood by the liberation of Zimbabwe. My country, Uganda, suffered a great blow in 1971 when the president, Dr. Milton Obote, then the late, was overthrown. The UPC government was overthrown as it was crying for the liberation of Zimbabwe in Singapore. The Prime Minister of Britain by then, Teddy Heath, told Milton Obote, and I quote, that some of you, as you are here, you might not have big presidents or prime ministers. You might not return home. Indeed, the Mossad and the MI6 and 5 had organized a coup, installed Idi Amin, took over power, and it did not take long before Idi Amin started eating them themselves, who brought him to power. So Uganda suffered a great deal, the first casualty of a very major shift that brought our country to chaos up to today, up to 2008, when we finished the war, Uganda has been having very close links with Zimbabwe. We have been harboring many of Zimbabwean fighters and South African ANC fighters. We have suffered equally. We have stood for the liberation, total liberation of Africa. But that is a point I want us, the younger generation, those who are young, who were born free, not born struggling, those who are in hamburger-eating countries where they are told to insult the leaders who started this struggle, should change their attitude and begin working towards a dialogue and harmonization of thoughts that will bring about peace and tranquility in the Republic of Zimbabwe. 45 years ago, Zimbabwe had hope, and that hope was there. Zimbabwe was the basket of Africa. Zimbabwe was the production unit of all the clothes we see in Marks and Spencer and all the flowers that we sell across in Europe. Although the flowers were on our land, the land of the people of Zimbabwe, the money never used to go back to improve the Black community. Several people owned, absentee landlords were plenty. In 1997, things started changing and shifting until war veterans said enough is enough. Remember, those who have not read the Constitution, the Lancaster House document, you better read it. It is part of the Lancaster Agreement says you don't change anything in the Lancaster Agreement Constitution, that you don't alter even a comma for the next 15 years. It protected Ian Smith and other people. Zimbabwe was the first country that did what we could call a reconciliation, where Mugabe shook hands with Ian Smith. Ian Smith continued to be protected, not harassed, not arrested, not beaten, although Ian Smith killed over 1 million people. If it was today, Ian Smith would be taken to the ICC for charges. May his soul rest in peace forever, but he did kill people. This is the background history that people have forgotten, that the struggle to plug out Zimbabwe from the hands of the Unilateral Declaration of Independence of 1965 by Ian Smith was a strong, very tough struggle, which led to millions dying, displaced, refugees across, black ones across Africa. Therefore, circumstances of this nature require extraordinary circumstances. President Mugabe controlled, ran over this country, the matters of this country. He was a darling of the West. From 1980, hope was there. The British liked Mr. Mugabe, honored him with all titles that deserve, because he did not ask one cardinal question. What about the black population who fought for the land? The Labour government came to power in 1998. I am summarizing the book that I've written that I will show you here. This is my book, How Britain Erred. This book tells you how Britain erred. How Britain erred in this document. You will see. This book here is a book that you should read and find out exactly what happened. It's just, it costs only $21. You can get it from me if you want to read exactly what took place. From 1980 to 1995, then 1996 and 97, conservative government was in power in Britain. And therefore, I'm bringing this history so that the younger generation celebrating 45 years today must know where we went wrong, what happened, why Zimbabwe started going the way it has gone up to today. The agreement said you don't change a comma. Therefore, the government could not abrogate it. The veterans, war veterans, started clamoring for land. They wanted to have land, where to go. You can't be in your own country. You fought for it, and then you have nothing to show. 1997, there was an invasion into the farms. People said, no, enough is enough. If you are not surrendering one farm, one man, one farm, leave one farm, have one farm with you. The whites who decided to leave one farm and surrender the others are still in Zimbabwe, living very comfortable life, better than the lives of some of the people in Britain or America. Ladies and gentlemen, the story is very interesting. I tell this story because why Zimbabwe? A darling of the West, a production unit for industries from Britain, sending apron, everything, materials, food, flowers into Britain. It was the basket for Africa and Europe. All of a sudden in 1998, Tony Blair, who was the prime minister who swept to power after defeating John Major, changed the course of Zimbabwe by stroke of a mouth in a declaration in Brighton in 1998. Mr. Tony Blair destroyed Zimbabwe, isolated Zimbabwe. Countries followed. The European Union followed. America, their big brother across the Atlantic, followed. Sanctions were put on this great nation of Zimbabwe. I give this history so that the people can understand that it has come from a painful angle, not just an angle that you can brush off and start insulting the current president or the previous administration. They have worked under very hard conditions, given that from 1998, a dollar of Zimbabwe that was almost equivalent to a pound and a dollar of US started going down. Banks withdrew their services. World Bank withdrew their lending facilities. IMF withdrew lending facilities. Sanctions were put on this nation in 2002. Things started going bad, saying elections had been rigged. I was in Zimbabwe myself in 2002 elections, and I opposed the Commonwealth on this question of rigging elections. Ladies and gentlemen, the story is long, but to cut it short, sanctions came into place in 2002. Zimbabwe suffered. Zimbabwe became a victim, isolated, given names, demonized, hoping that there would be a violent regime change. The opposition in Zimbabwe, headed by Morgan Tsvangirai, the late, Tandai Biti, president, Welshman Kube, president, and others, started agitating for sanctions to come and bite this great nation of theirs. Some of us who stood from 1998 to date, up to today, I still stand by Zimbabwe, not on any contract, not any payment, not anything. Stand by it on Pan-Africanism, the value, the passion to make sure that you don't dismember a country. I've stood by that. The people who called for sanctions are the same people today who regret why sanctions were called. I was warning them in conferences in Europe. Whenever they could come to address people in London, I could protest in their conferences and tell them, no, you people should not call for sanctions. They will bite all of us and they will bite you also. But they did not hear me. Morgan Tsvangirai died, left the party to Nelson Chamisa, squabbles, the party, the opposition. The fragmentation of opposition in Zimbabwe is the main cause that creates a pseudo crisis, which is manufactured, helped, engineered by the West, America themselves. The Open Society Foundation of George Soros has funded some organizations in Zimbabwe, civil rights organizations and NGOs, to frame and bring up Gaza and give Gaza a platform quietly, clandestinely linked to an American system that regime change must occur. Mr. George Soros has lost capability in the US. A new government has come in place. But still, this new government is being fed with toxic news and toxins of wrong toxins, of saying there is this, there is that. Yes, we do accept that to some extent there are things that you go extra beyond. For example, you cannot start insulting the Queen, the King of United Kingdom in places where we live. We give the King respect. We only agree to disagree on a number of things, but you don't go on insulting the King of Britain in the streets, in the papers, in where, and without people cautioning you. Those things do happen. Do we have responsible journalism that takes place? Do we have responsible opposition parties? No, Africa still doesn't have. So the story of Zimbabwe now is manufactured around lies. We have manufactured lies about Zimbabwe. Those who did not even know the date of independence start saying Zimbabwe is a wrong place. And yet when you go to their hotels in Victoria Falls and other places, you find the same white people filling these places. And they tell us in Europe, we shouldn't go to Zimbabwe because it doesn't have this, it doesn't have this, as if Zimbabwe drives their cars upside down or on different roads. This nation is one of the few nations that has endured Western propaganda, pumped everywhere from all Al Jazeera, pumped from BBC, from CNN, from France 24, from all these journals in Europe, Voice of America, Focus on Africa, BBC. They have been pumping propaganda against this great nation, Zimbabwe. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Africans, Zimbabwe has come from hope, liberated itself, stabilized its economy, arrived in the era of sanctions. No IMF funding, no World Bank funding. It funds its own projects. Its currency lost value, but yet the country is capable to rebuild itself. What solutions on this day like this do I give to the people of Zimbabwe? I give a solution of a redemption strategy. The redemption strategy that the people of Zimbabwe, whether you're in opposition or in the government, you need what we call a redemption strategy. What is a redemption strategy? Is reconciliation, is accountability, is restitution. It is reparation. It is forgiveness. All these factors lead to what we call a redemption strategy, and they lead to what we call healing. Zimbabwe needs healing, not any reverse. There will be no reversal. Even if you remove His Excellency Emerson Mnangagwa today, you will not reverse the land issue. It's gone, it's done, dusted, finished. Leaders of opposition are exporting flowers. Mr. Chamisa's flowers are all the time. You, who is a common person who might not have a farm, you want to kill each other, you want to fight, you want to call for demonstrations, you want to destroy property. But Mr. Chamisa is exporting his flowers and earning foreign exchange. His children are educating themselves abroad. Are you educating your child abroad? No. So when you talk about these 5 fingers, point fingers at Emerson Mnangagwa, point fingers at yourself, at the opposition. Is Tendai not having a farm? Where does he go? He goes to his farm. Who gave the farm? Mugabe. Has he refused it? Where does Watchman Kube go? Home. Who gave the farm? He got it through the land reform program. Where does Chamisa go? To his farm. Who gave the farm? The same process that he condemned, that his party condemned. So reconcile. If you look at all that, it is the citizens that are suffering. But the elite group on both sides have farms. Everybody has farms. Try to see how you can come back together, lead your people in a redemption strategy. I'm an opponent of violence. I'm an opponent of demonstrations. Mr. Gesa, wherever you are, which I know, I'm one of the few people who knows what you do, where you are. We know you. You are being paid to dismember this nation. You are being sponsored, logistically supported by cyber systems that will soon come to a close. But come down and sit with President Mnangagwa and tell him, no, this is wrong, this is wrong. We need our country like this, instead of going to public. The media, the same media that praised Mugabe, is the same media that brought him down. The same media that is praising you today to dismember Zimbabwe, Mr. Gesa, is the same media that will bring you down if you took power anywhere in Zimbabwe, which looks impossible. You are making the citizens suffer